this? How damaging is it when the anti-Semitism and even the anti-Zionism comes from within the Jewish community? And does that require a different response than how we respond to non-Jews? And
I mean, it's the most damaging of all, because what it is koshering anti-Semitism. You know, and for every single unapologetic, proud Zionist Jew that exists, you could find an anti-Zionist Jew who is more willing to bend to a non-Jewish worldview, not create much of a problem or make any noise, and not really present any, you know, alternative argument to what is being accepted as the morally righteous way to be.
So, is it a toxic kind of tribalism that you think that is happening?
I think that, you know, I know it's a controversial thing to say, but I think fundamentally anti-Zionist Jews are victims of anti-Jewish racism, and what they are doing by continuing to be proudly anti-Zionist, if it is a prideful thing, is that they're feeding into the power of those who are being racist towards them and oppressing them, and you know, they're strengthening the anti-Semitism that we see in those progressive spaces. And yes, I do believe that how we deal with them has to be different from how we deal with non-Jewish non-Jewish anti-Semites, because they are part of our people. Yes. We love them regardless, and they're part of our tribe. And I think we have to really understand the nuances of why people become anti-Zionist. And I think from being in those spaces, and by that I mean progressive spaces, mixing with anti-Zionists, I think a lot of what I see is trauma from the Jewish community and a rejection of the Jewish community that presents itself in this anti-Israel fashion. You know, I always kind of, again, it's a controversial joke to say that, you know, don't blame Israel for your daddy issues or whatever it is, but it is kind of like that's what's happening sometimes.
Yes.
You know, it's
And it's tragic.
And it's tragic.
It's like,
and I feel for them, because who would choose that over being a proud Jew celebrating our history?
But sorry, Noah, you go ahead.
No, go. We all have a lot to say.
No, what I was going to say is that we have to be empathetic to the choice that's being forced on young progressive Jews right now and be honest about it. And the choice that's being forced on them is, you want to be part of the good guys? No problem. Disavow Jewish power, kind of, you know, be a Jewish historical revisionist, and disavow the state of Israel. 15 years ago, the bargain was a little different. It was disavow the settlement project, you can be part of the good people. 10 years ago, it changed a little bit. Now it's disavow the fact that it exists at all. And it is real, that choice, meaning if you do those things, you will be celebrated in particular circles, and indeed you will be held up as a kind of totem, because it's a way for that community to kind of say, aha, look, you say we're anti-Semitic, look at this. Yeah. Look at this Jew that we have here that we've, you know, trotted out before you, who is willing to disavow Israel. I think the one thing that I would add to it is just a little bit of historical perspective, which is that this has always been with us. You know, Noah mentioned before the Hellenists, right? This was the bargain back then too. The terms of it were different. The terms of it back then were, you know, undo your circumcision so you can play in the gymnasium in Judea or in Jerusalem and be accepted. No one's talking about that now, although who knows, maybe we could get there. The terms of it now are disavow Jewish power, disavow Jewish sovereignty, disavow, you know, the Jewish indigenous connection, to the land of Israel. But that same bargain has been put to us, that impossible choice for all of Jewish history.
So here's the thing. Again, talking about this a lot, it just, when I was talking about not getting triggered, this is where I get like, just be okay with that. It's tokenizing Jewish people. So Bella Hadid took, again, sorry, this is the third time I'm mentioning her. She takes a picture, all these people take pictures of the Neturei Karta, which is the extreme sect of these anti-Zionist, ultra-Orthodox whack jobs. I said that. Because they are. Every religion has whack jobs. Those are our whack jobs.
They're our Westboro Baptist Church.
it's like 5,000 people or something like that. They're absolutely insane because the Messiah hasn't come to Jerusalem and we haven't killed the red cow. We shouldn't be in Israel. It's an abomination. Whack jobs. Good luck. Bless their hearts. So those people are being tokenized against Israel, right? Look at them. They're anti-Zionist. The same thing is happening right now with the Jews that are anti-Israel. And here's what I think. What caused this is a breakdown in Jewish education. This is our fault, our responsibility, and we need to take a good look at ourselves and what we did in order to allow for this. Because again, to go back to my point, there's been a war going on for 20 years. We didn't know that there's a war going on. Okay, so what we have done is we took our kids, we put them through middle school, high school, whatever, and through this beautiful Jewish education, we give them all the values, we tell them that Israel is the most amazing people in the place in the world, and we sent them off to college without ever acknowledging the concept of ethnic cleansing, apartheid. We let college talk to them about this for the first time. And what had happened is they made it to college and they were shocked. Okay, absolutely blown away. And what happened a lot, and let's go back to your friend Seth Rogen, okay? What he said on his podcast, best friend, was very telling. Because to people like him, right, they show up in all these liberal circles. Nobody ever addressed, let's talk about why people call Israel an apartheid state. Let's have a conversation about this. When the kid, not when they make it to college, when the kid is 12, 13, 14, bring it up. Say, listen, here's the argument. Here's what you're going to hear. Here's where it's completely false. Here are the facts, right? Here's where, the West Bank. Let's talk about what's happening in the West Bank. Let's talk about why it's not Palestine yet. So a lot of what's happening right now within the Jewish community is a breakdown of Jewish education because we wanted to brush away and kind of, again, let's not ruffle the feathers. Let's be sweet and not discuss the issues. That's what I did in my book. I'm like, let's discuss the issues. And if we don't do that, we allow the conversation to get confiscated and taken away from us. So this is something that we need to transform from the ground up and not let, when the Seth Rogens of the world aren't given a historical context to what had actually happened, they show up on school and campus and they think we lied about everything else. And the thing is this, right? And it's very important to remember. You were talking about indigenous rights, right? The indigenous justification, the moral justification, the historical justification, the archaeological justification for the existence of the state of Israel in the land of Israel is unarguable and does not need us to not actually talk about the tough issues. There is no denying those facts. Let's be the ones to be actually active in dealing with them and being like, here's a conversation out there. Let's talk about that.